What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. I know you talk about this often, but do you think any sources or people that can explain how these GMs get taken to school by agents? In what world would Tua, Lawrence, Kyler, Purdy all worth the contracts they were given? You always say, who are you bidding against? But seriously, who are they bidding against? How does this happen? It seems like an absolute malpractice that this is setting franchises back constantly. Is it agents trying to get their breaks or trying to get their beaks wet? Even if it is, how are the GMs and owners willingly letting this happen? It makes zero logical sense. Even Dak, who is a good quarterback, is he worth $60 million a year? I get having an average quarterback is better than nothing. Dak actually is playing pretty good right now. He looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I don't know, man. I think you would really have to sit down with John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, Trent Baalke, some of these guys over cocktails, and because again, we can all guess why did you give Trevor Lawrence $200 million? I like Brock Purdy a lot. I actually think he took a relatively team-friendly deal based on the other deals. But it's guys, he's been the starter for 2.5 years. Couldn't we just play it out again? Well, then franchise tag. Well, it's let's just keep proving it. That's the way most of us work. It's well, he's a quarterback. Well, is he Mahomes or Josh Allen and Lamar? No. Then let's just let it play out. And I'm not trying, Purdy had proven that he can win, but then last year they had a bunch of injuries and they won 6 games and he didn't play that well down the stretch. And now he's injured and the team's winning. So it's I'm more pro Purdy than I am Trevor Lawrence, Kyler, or Tua. But my first reaction will always be what's the rush? Why are we rushing? I get the Packers giving Micah Parsons $188 million. Totally. I get the Cowboys giving CeeDee Lamb or Jamar Chase $200 million. Totally get it. Right? But if I have a guy that's not elite at his job, and that's also the problem, I'll use Kyle as an example. Kyle views Brock Purdy like an elite. Kyle would tell you he's every bit as good, or I can be every bit as good with him as Patrick Mahomes is with Andy Reid. Even if that's not actually true, I genuinely believe that he believes that. So it's yeah, I'll give my guy a max amount of money. But then you see Sam Darnold, who got $55 million guaranteed. I mean, just watch him. He looks like one of the better quarterbacks in the league. It's I can get that guy for a third of the price when I just want that guy. I will say this. If I was a quarterback and my career had hit some hard times and I was going to be a quote-unquote backup, the first people I would call would be the 49ers because they are resurrecting careers. Sam Darnold, Mac Jones, they created Brock Purdy's career. Kyle Shanahan would be my first call. I want in. That's what I would say. If Mac Jones' biggest regret, he signed a 2-year contract. Imagine if Mac Jones had just signed a 1-year contract. What would he get this offseason? 1 year, $20 million? Probably. He would definitely get the most amount of money for a bridge quarterback. How much of the Packers just looking weird on offense is on LaFleur? Just seems like Green Bay is not getting consistent results on offense. LaFleur just seems like he coaches not to lose. I don't know. I don't get why there's a lack of trust in Jordan Love, and you can argue that he makes some poor decisions every once in a while. Jacobs definitely doesn't feel quite as dominant this year as he did last year. If I remember correctly, didn't he start slow last year too? I don't know. Something just you watch the Packers. Hard for me to put my finger on. Again, I liked them to. I got a bet on them to win the NFC. I got multiple bets on them that aren't going to hit because they're also tied to the Texans to win the division, which I don't even feel that great about. But you watch them, something's just a little off. Something's just a little off. Looking at Jacobs right now, he's had a couple 80-yard games. Yeah, he's had 3 80-yard games. Got 8 touchdowns this year. He actually scoring a lot of touchdowns. But shit, he had 15 last year. He's been a monster for the Packers, actually. In between last year and this year, these are just rushing touchdowns. He has 23 rushing touchdowns. I mean, if I get 30 touchdowns from a guy like Jacobs, ain't the problem. I don't know. It's a great question. I don't. You know better than me. I can't put my finger on the Packers. Befuddled. Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. The Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook now has new promos every single day. We talk a lot of football on 3 and Out, but there's always something to bet. We got the World Series, baby. Week 8 kicks off later this week as well. But if you haven't tried your first bet on Hard Rock Bet, there's still time for you to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you get not only your winnings, but $150 in extra bonus bets. If you're already betting on the Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app, you know what that means. Wednesdays are the last day to use your legendary rewards drops. Open up the app today. You could have a bonus bet, or who knows what's in there. More drops every Thursday. The rewards and promos are nonstop, baby. This is, I'm not one to usually not read a question, but it's something involved in Mike McDaniel's past. How does the league deal? I appreciate your question, Daniel. I do feel he's a good example, and this is what I talk about when we discuss. Ironically, as Mike is an Ivy League guy too, he went to Yale, but I do think he gets treated like. Why does Mike get treated a lot different than Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski? Mike went to the playoffs back-to-back years. Like he did. Now it didn't go well in the playoffs, but he still went to the playoffs back-to-back years. And now everyone treats him like he's just a complete dipshit. People are like, oh, look at Andrew Berry's draft. It's like he's 2-6. This team's gonna win 5 games this year. But it's like, oh God, he's smart. That's what I mean. And this is kind of goes against my argument because McDaniel's an Ivy League. He has an Ivy League degree, but he gets treated like he went to Chico State. It's like I fucking former drunk loser, douchebag. It's like I don't know. I mean. I kind of feel I'm starting to feel bad for him. I got to get your perspective on this. Would the openings at Penn State and Florida be considered better opportunities for Lane Kiffin, or should he stay at Ole Miss? I think Lane Kiffin's a big Florida guy by all accounts. I've listened to a lot of college football people talk about the podcast. I think he's got a house there. Obviously, his dad is synonymous with the state. Tampa 2 defense, coached there forever. Lane resurrected his career, I would say, post Alabama as a head coach at was it NAU? I get some of those schools. NIU, Northern, FAU. I guess it wouldn't be NAU. It'd be FAU, Florida Atlantic University. Whatever school Lane coached at. I just think that, there is, and I said this before, you're going to find out there is just a prestige coaching at certain jobs. But one thing I noticed last weekend, the SEC has the best home environments. I mean, Auburn is in shambles. They have had back-to-back night games that looked as good as any football environment there is. Ryan Grubb, the Bama offensive coordinator, said, I've been coaching for a long time. I've won, Division II national champions, 1AA national championships. I've coached in the national championship game at Washington. I've played in massive games against Oregon. He's like, that was the best atmosphere I've ever seen by a country mile. Vanderbilt, which is used to be an also ran, that game against LSU was rocking. And the Georgia Ole Miss game, Ole Miss's stadium. I mean, these atmospheres are pretty sweet. So it's like, yeah, Florida's an awesome atmosphere, but Lane plays in a sweet place. So I think it's more about like, at this point in time, Lane's super rich. So it's not like he already makes $10 million a year. Whether they give him $50, $80 million, he's already like not worrying about money. So it's less about money and more like, would he rather live in Gainesville than live in Oxford, Mississippi? Does he think that the proximity, it's closer for him to recruit some top players? Does that even matter now? And like ultimately, does he want the challenge? Like, has he done everything humanly possible he can do at Ole Miss? I don't believe Penn State makes much sense for him because he's a rock star in the SEC. And Lane Kiffin feels like an SEC guy. And you saw that interaction he had pregame and postgame with Kirby. Like he kind of, I think he's found his people. And I think that's really important in life, finding your people. Like I feel I've lived in a lot of places. Spent a lot of time, obviously, born and raised in California, but I've lived for a couple years in Philadelphia. I lived for 6 months in Kansas City. I've lived in, from the Bay Area to Fresno to, the coast in San Luis Obispo. Like, I've been around a lot of different types of people because everywhere you live, people are wired a little bit different, right? We're all quote unquote Americans, but like living in Florida is a lot different than living in Seattle than living in New York City. And I think once you find like these are my type of like I just vibe with Arizona. It's just it's just my vibe. It works. Like I fucking belong here. And I think that really matters when you are professionally ambitious. So it's like because he still has a lot to accomplish at Ole Miss. If these are his people and he fits in well, and he's openly talked about how important coaching there has been to his life, then yeah, stay. But if you feel that you're more Florida than you are Mississippi, then go. I think it's about much more personal stuff than it is professionally. Because like Ole Miss pays a ton. Ole Miss has, I think they had one of the highest payrolls in the country last year with their roster. So it's not like they won't pay for the players. He can obviously pay coaches. He plays against the best teams: Georgia, Bama, LSU. Like he's playing them all every year. So it's not like he needs to go to Florida to play better competition. It's just about like, do you want to live somewhere different? I really think it's that simple. Because at this point in time, 10 years ago, it's a no brainer. Now it might not be. To me, Penn State makes no sense for Lane Kiffin. Wouldn't touch that job with a 10-foot pole. With quarterbacks getting second and third chances, where can Mac Jones be traded to with a chance to be a starter next year? I just don't think the 49ers can afford to trade him. I mean, their starting quarterback now has had a major shoulder injury, or I guess elbow injury, that they were lucky it was the NFC Championship game, or if that happens during the season, would have cost him the year. He got banged up. Was it last year? I forget the exact injury off the top of my head. And obviously now he can't play in games. Kyle Shanahan just said yesterday, like he ain't playing this week. So Mac Jones, like part of having life insurance plan, especially those of us, if you're listening with children, like who knows? What if I cross the street and a truck hits me and I die? You never know. Do you think the 49ers plan when they gave Brock Purdy all that money for Brock Purdy to uh, miss all these games? Of course not. But they had a contingency plan. And that's was their insurance, was Mac Jones. So, and then he has a bunch of success. The other thing is, I think his contract was like 2 years, $7 million total. I think Mac Jones is borderline untradeable for this team. I just got a text message. Oh, the Giants cut the kicker. All I saw was my text message say later loser. That was in the 3 and Out group text. A lot of hate for the Giants kicker. We got a lot of Giants fans. Resurgence of quarterbacks like Daniel Jones and Mac Jones and the longer term rebounds from guys like Baker and Sam. Do you think teams might start taking more chances on formerly quote unquote bust quarterbacks instead of spending draft capital on rookies? Since 2018, roughly a third of the quarterbacks, once labeled busts, have managed to turn their careers around. Could smart, well run teams start viewing that as a more efficient or higher probability move than drafting a first quarterback? I think it's already happening. Like, look at all these quarterbacks that end up on different teams. They've all been given other shots. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. Like, they bounced around to other teams before they ended up where they're at now. So the thing when you're drafted high, you're always given constant opportunities. I think Sam Darnold, after being a backup for the Niners, was given 1 year's $10 million based on not much. Now, he's changed the course of his career in Minnesota, but like you could argue, like, wait, well, you're giving him $10 million for what? But that's because he was a high draft pick. You get more opportunities. The NFL is a meritocracy. That is true, right? Once training camp starts, once the games start, you can be the 30th pick. If the undrafted free agent is outplaying you, he is going to start and you are not. Period, point blank, end of story. But if that undrafted free agent plays and he sucks, he is not going to get the same amount of opportunities around the league as the second or first rounder if he sucks. Because you can cut that guy. And, I mean, you see it with receivers all the time. Like Dante Pettis, 49ers drafted high, and he's been on like 7 teams since. If Dante Pettis had been an undrafted free agent instead of a guy drafted in the second round, he's not getting the same amount of opportunities. So I think that I think that's always been the case. It's pretty rare for a guy drafted really high to not get. I mean, you got to be an all-time disaster for no one to touch you. When do we start talking about Matt Stafford as the MVP? 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2,000 yards, no Puka, and mediocre run game. I'm talking about him. He's fucking awesome. The NFC West. We got the little overachieving Niners. We got Seattle that looks incredible on defense, and JSN and Sam Darnold and the running backs. Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker. I mean, they got a lot of talent. John Schneider's good at his job. And the Rams, that defense looks good. Stafford looks good. Shocker, Devontae Adams is good. It's like Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams. You give those guys to good quarterbacks, they're going to be good. I don't care that they're slow. Now, Keenan's slower than Devontae, but, like, those guys are pros. You know, those guys are good. This Texans offense, since Watson left Houston, has left a lot to be desired. I still believe CJ is a Super Bowl level quarterback, but they need to get him a good OC. If Mike McDaniel becomes available, would you hire him for $10 million a year? No, $10 million a year? 10? I don't think Mike's making 10 now. I would hire him, I guess. But I think one thing Caserio needs to do, and we actually talked about this last night after we got done recording, is I will defend them a little bit. They made a bold move, right? I do think, I don't know this for a fact, but it was kind of clear. The owner was on them about drafting a quarterback. So they drafted CJ, which immediately looked like a good pick. But then they really wanted Will Anderson, so they traded from 12 up to 3. So they went CJ Stroud, Will Anderson back to back. Well, we looked it up. They traded pick 12, pick 33, and the following year's first round pick to do that. So you're watching the Texans, you're like, God, it feels like they're missing a couple of players. Well, yeah, they are. Because they gave up a first round pick and pick 33. That all of a sudden that could be a guard and a running back. All of a sudden that could be some unreal tight end and a tackle, right? But that guy doesn't exist because they traded it away to get Will Anderson, who's a badass. But like part of the acquisition price to get Will Anderson was losing out on other players. And their team has serious holes. And that kind of comes with the territory of making a trade like that. So I just think Casario's got to find a way to like improve the offensive personnel and the offensive line specifically. Cole Popovich, I was thinking about this last night, who is their offensive line coach. My first year at Fresno State in 2008, he was our right guard. And we played Rutgers week 1, and they had like the McCourty twins, Kenny Britt. They were really good. We beat him, no big deal. He got hurt in that game, and his career just ended. He might have got hurt maybe in training camp. I'm pretty sure he played week 1. But the year before, Ryan Wendell, who's the Rams coach, offensive line coach, and Cole Popovich, who's the Houston Texans coach, were the guard and center for Fresno State team. I think won 9 or 10 games. I was thinking, like, how many college teams in the last 20 years have 2 of their 5 starting offensive linemen that are offensive line coaches in the NFL? Pretty awesome accomplishment for Pat Hill, who's also an offensive line guy. Just a tidbit that no one might care about beside me. Born and raised in Indy, we all know the quarterback's situation since Luck retired and the carousel has seemed endless. With the passing of Jim Irsay, not JJ, his badass daughters taking the reins, and the resurgence of Indiana Jones and Jonathan Taylor, blah, blah, blah. Just like reading off all the sweet things. With Shane from Philly and Lou from Cincy, am I completely insane to think the Colts could be a perfect place for A.J. Brown and Trey Hendrickson to join the squad for a Super Bowl push? So basically trade your first-round pick for A.J. Brown, your second-round pick for Trey. I think that's a little ambitious, but would I do that if I was Chris Ballard? 100%. I do think that the Eagles are in a spot where I just think you can't give away A.J. Brown. He's too good. You just kind of deal with him posting some weird stuff about Jalen. It just kind of is what it is. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's going to get traded. Trey, the Bengals lose a couple games, for sure could get traded. When does Howie ever trade someone sweet? He'll trade for someone sweet, but I have a hard time. Like, A.J. Brown clearly is one of the best players in the league. Like, you just see when he turns it on. Now, you could argue it's a little hit or miss, but they're clearly not as good. You know, The Eagles' mindset is to the Bengals obviously in a different place, but the Eagles like, why can't we just be back in the NFC Championship game? And then we're 60 minutes away from the Super Bowl. Look at our team. No, it's not guaranteed, but trading AJ Brown even for a first round pick makes us that less likely to happen. I'd rather trade him in the offseason for like a second and a fourth than do it during the season. Because even if he's mad, he's gonna loaf? He still plays hard. Can I tell you about my friends at Bubs Natural? I've been taking a scoop of this every day for the last couple weeks, and getting old isn't that fun. You know, your skin gets thinner, your body aches more after workouts. It's tough, and that's why you need to do everything possible to work against that. And taking a scoop of this in the morning, getting my collagen peptides, I've noticed one, I feel like my skin is definitely glowing more. And from a workout standpoint, my body feels as fresh as it's felt in years. No sugars, no sweeteners, unflavored, from grass-fed, pasteurized raised cattle. Cannot recommend this stuff enough. Again, skin glowing, body feels good. Live longer for a limited time only. Our listeners get 20% off at Bubs Natural by using the code 3 and out at checkout. Just head to bubsnatural.com and use the code number 3 and out, and you're all set. After the purchase, tell them we sent you, and have a great day. What's up with these play callers calling all these double passes? After seeing the failed ones from USC in the Seattle Seahawks game, it got me thinking. I don't think I've seen a successful double pass in 4 years. You know, when you spend 15, 20 hours a day, Monday through Thursday, and even Friday is probably a 13-hour day. Saturday, if you're traveling, is a long day. You spend a lot of time thinking. And they say paralysis paralysis by analysis, analysis by paralysis. Screwing that statement up. But whatever, just overthinking, like sometimes just idle time and just, the creative mind can work to your benefit and also can hurt you. Like the Chiefs. Did you see the play that went viral of them running that like kind of diamond formation where they hand to one of the up backs who's on, I think, to the left of Mahomes, and Mahomes is pretending to try to get them to jump off sides and starts screaming like, fuck, this never works. And clearly he was doing that to screw them up. Like there's a fine line between doing like, that's pretty genius. And they got some downtime. They're probably BSing on the practice field. I don't know whose idea that was, but like, and then the double pass when you're just driving easily down the field. And I think a lot of the double pass comes with one, football can be pretty, what's the best way to describe it? Monotonous. Can be taxing on a daily basis of just doing the same things over and over, right? You show up early, you film study, you work out, you eat breakfast, you practice, you go to meetings, you walk through, you rehab. It's just the same thing over, and then just trying to get to the game, and then you do it all again. And part of keeping guys engaged is doing fun shit. Like Coach Reed is really good at that. Like that Mahomes moment, like that helps guys stay locked in. Like how are you supposed to? Like I understand Mahomes is an ambitious, like, an achiever, right? But still, he's a human being. 28, 29, 30 years old, got a couple kids, super rich. They've already won a bunch. Like just doing the same thing over and over at practice, like you can lose your focus. And the easiest way to keep guys engaged is to like bust out a trick play every once in a while in practice. Well, you can't just run in practice over and over. Eventually, you want to run in the games. So I can imagine when that play call comes in a game, they all probably light up in the huddle. Now, when you throw it to the other team, it's obviously a disaster. But I do kind of get it. Part of I don't know exactly the rules we're gonna have for. I'd be a pretty big hypocrite, about having a very strict diet for my unborn children. But like you can't just say you never get to eat ice cream in your entire life. Like that's not really a healthy way to approach it. But you also can't give them ice cream for breakfast. But every once in a while, you got to let them have an ice cream cone. And I think that's kind of like trick plays. Obviously, when they work, you look like a genius, but you can't just never run them, especially good teams. I mean, that just helps people stay engaged. How come Sean Payton isn't taking more heat for his play calling? It's either screens or deep balls, while Bo has definitely struggled with balls 20 plus yards down the field. I feel like he's a good thrower 10 to 20-yard routes. Totally agree. I feel like when they get him on the run and he has like crossing routes, like if he's going to his right and one of the wide receivers is basically paralleling him, if he's 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage and that guy's 10 to 15 yards past the line of scrimmage following him, he's good on the run making those throws. I mean, he made a bunch in that game against the Giants in the fourth quarter. But just like having him drop back and throw some go routes or deep breaking routes, it's clearly not been working. And it feels like they are running them, and maybe it feels they're doing it more because they miss it so often. It's actually not that high of a number. But I don't understand why they don't utilize his legs way more often. Do you think the 2020 draft happened again? Jordan Love would be taken ahead of Herbert and Jalen Hurts. Love has won in the playoffs and played in more games than Herbert, and I think that it's fair to say he's more physically gifted than Hurts. The 20 draft: Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Love, Hurts. Uh, well, I think if you don't factor in injuries, Burrow's a lock to go one. I think if you're doing it today and you're factoring in injuries, Burrow's pretty risky. I mean, he's had major injuries, major injuries. So to me, people are going to think I'm nuts, but I think there would be a big contingent in the NFL that would take Herbert. Again, based on today, the information we have on the injuries. Tua clearly is going last. Uh, I think the Shanahan guys, Hurts would not look good in the Packers offense. Hurts would not be good for Kyle Shanahan. It would not. You couldn't function. Hurts would not operate in Baker Mayfield's offense. So you have to kind of build the offense specifically for Jalen. So I think it would be very dependent on the coach. I think Jalen, or excuse me, Jordan, in theory, and again, I'm not like anointing him the greatest thing since sliced bread. He can be very hit or miss, but he's a little more less scheme dependent. Jalen, you have to have a pretty clear plan of attack. I would say I would even put Tua on this list. I think all four of those guys, Burrow, Herbert, Love, Hurts, would go. I mean, 1 through 4. I Tua probably goes in like the fourth round. It's crazy how bad he looks. Jeez. Lions fan, what is wrong with our offense? The O line is good at times, but we can't move the ball consistently when it matters. So you have uh, you have a new center and a new guard. One's a rookie. I mean, it's just part of the deal. I mean, Sewell, Decker, excellent players. Your skill guys are excellent. I'd be pretty bullish on the Lions. I wouldn't be that worried about the offense. With the Chiefs now surprising back to normal, Lamar injured, the Bills secondary weak, the Chargers banged up, the Broncos not playing well, and Joe Burrow out, etc. Everyone else implodes. They still get the 1 seed bye, home field, and get a weak first round, all leading up to the AFC Championship in Arrowhead, and no one really good enough on defense to stop them. With that feeling like it's inevitable, does it take the excitement out of the regular season for you? It does for me. It almost makes an AFC regular season game pointless. I think if you got Andy Reid and Spags and Veach on the phone right now, they'd say, listen, that's easy to say out loud. All the shit's hard. Some of these games we have won against Buffalo, we easily could have lost. Even the game that, we kind of embarrassed Lamar. Wasn't the final score 17-10 when they beat him? It's not like they were winning these games 45-7. So it's football. You're one weird bounce away from being down 10-0. I mean, the Chiefs, even remember the first year they won the Super Bowl when they had the crazy comebacks against Tennessee. Was it Cincinnati? I forget who. They were down. Oh, it was Houston. It was like Houston, then Tennessee, or Tennessee, then Houston, whatever the setup was. It's football. I don't think it's going to be that easy. I hear what you're saying because I told Maria this the other day. I'm like, the Chiefs are going to be back in the Super Bowl. She's like, I don't want it. I'm like, well, we're Andy Reid Veach people. Like, we're rooting for her. She's like, no, I'm not. I've seen enough. I'm like, well, I am because I appreciate them. I mean, if they get back to the Super Bowl, that is an incredible accomplishment. It really is. And I obviously know these guys personally, but even the Patriots, like I didn't know Belichick or Tom, but I did appreciate like how dominant they were because how hard it is to do that. This isn't This isn't the Dodgers that have a $700 million player, a $400 million player, three $200 million pitchers. Like this isn't that. The former MVP first baseman, Muncy, who's sweet. Should the Titans hire Belichick as the head coach and Mike McDaniel as the offensive coordinator? Find a decent personnel guy and go from there? No. That's the problem with the Titans is they already got the personnel guys. It's two of them, Brinkard and Borgonzi. So Belichick's NFL career is over. Like he's even if he got North Carolina turned around in a couple years, by then he's 75, 76 years old. It's pretty crazy. Belichick's never coaching in the NFL again. I guess it's not as crazy saying that right now, October 20th, 1st, 2025, based on what we've seen in North Carolina. Though I do think the Pablo Torre video of her talking much more nothing burger than it is a story. Like, yeah, she's crazy. We know. What do you think she's going to sound like? Like, I just found that, again, I am not against salacious, crazy stories of, like, the video of Belichick coming out, which looking back might have been her house, shirtless. Like, I'm not against content like that. But I did feel a little uneasy watching Belichick mic'd up with her talking about, like, stupid sayings relative to football. It's like, who cares? This is so stupid. We get it. Someone with underdog fantasy hated her, leaked this out, but I just don't. What does this change? What does this do? I even thought, like, oh, Michael Lombardi goes to Saudi Arabia. You mean like everyone else? Like, literally everyone is trying to get balls deep in their trillions of dollars. He ain't like, is that a weird story? Maybe it would have been a weird story 20 years ago, but in 2025, like, isn't the Big Ten sniffing around their money too? Isn't everyone? I mean, every single sport. I just think sometimes with those two guys specifically, it's got a little Mike McDaniel feel. Like everyone's just trying to shit on him. And obviously Pablo's getting people to feed him shit, but just watching that video, I went, is there more to this? Should I be watching this video? Like, do I feel a little icky? Yeah, I kind of do. Because I also think it's kind of stupid. Is Fernando Mendoza a top 10 draft pick? The algorithm first put me on your feed, and now I'm a weekly watcher. I like this guy. I texted a couple people a couple weeks ago, and they said no. But now, relative to the class, I think there's a pretty good chance if he's going to be the top quarterback. We know top quarterbacks get overdrafted. Like, I don't see why he couldn't go number one overall. He's tall, huge arm, winning. Signetti loves him. Was good last year at Cal on a team that didn't have much talent. So I would say if I was a betting man right now, I would say he has the best opportunity to go number one overall. I would also bet that a quarterback doesn't go number one overall, which would probably be a stupid bet based on recent history. I was so upset when they traded Micah, but now seeing how the season has played out, I'm actually glad we didn't. Instead, we gained valuable resources, the cap flexibility to make smart moves this offseason. My question being, would you have paid Parson or moved on? I think the only thing you can really ding him on is the timing of the trade. What they should have done is traded him before the draft because their team's pretty good and they could have used that draft capital like a defensive lineman. What if they just had a starting defensive end that they had just drafted? So that to me would be the question mark of how they got here. Not that Micah Parsons was traded. Their defense, even if you put him on, it would only do so much. But to me, should they have traded him before the draft? And if they had done that, would they have gotten more? That's a fair criticism. But I never, if you've listened to me, you knew I didn't have that big a deal with trading him. It's not like if the Packers had Micah Parsons and traded Micah Parsons, it'd be like, you're a Super Bowl contender. Why are you trading this guy? The Cowboys clearly were not. I mean, I honestly, the Cowboys have been one of the best stories in the NFL. Brian Schottenheimer, what a pretty cool moment. For, again, a guy everyone shit on. Curious to hear your thoughts on the Giants. In your opinion, are they a playoff level good in 1 or 2 years? I mean, they got a long way to go. Let's just figure out, like, is Brian Daboll their coach or not next year? I mean, we got a long way to go. What does Neighbors look like coming back off the injury? What's the coaching staff next year? I can't put them in the playoffs anytime near in the near future. We got a lot of holes to fill, and specifically the best offensive skill guy needs to be healthy. If he's healthy, and they have a good draft, which it feels like they've had a couple good drafts now. Yeah, I don't see why they couldn't be a playoff competitive team. Do you think the NFL division should be adjusted to be more geographically fair to a team like the Cowboys? Texans, or not Texans, Texas being in a division with New York, Pennsylvania, and Maryland makes no sense. It's about market, baby. They want the Eagles playing the Cowboys. They want the Commanders playing the Cowboys. They want the Giants playing the Cowboys. This is a business. And at the end of the day, these people are chartering jets. It's also like USC. Like, should they be playing Ohio State and Michigan? In Maryland and Rutgers? Probably not. But it's about money. And you ain't putting the Cowboys with like the Saints and the Jags. I'll promise you that. So I think they like a lot where the Cowboys stand. I'm with you. Doesn't make perfect sense. Once upon a time, the San Francisco Giants and the Atlanta Braves were in the same division in baseball. Make that make sense. Pretty sure the 49ers and the Atlanta Falcons were in the same division. So it's just, listen, I think we've come a long way, but uh, the Cowboys are not leaving that group of teams. I'll promise you that. Do you think the Niners are starting to have thoughts on the Purdy contract regret and the way Mac Jones has been playing? Not saying Purdy isn't good, but Mac is playing hurt and far from the eye test looks very similar to Purdy at a much lower cost. Also, it feels like there is more resurgence of the bust quarterback than ever before in the league. Uh, I think you could make the argument of like, should Purdy have just been like a 3-year, $30 million quarterback? You know, and this gets to the question earlier about like why are we paying all these guys? Just because Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar made a lot, why do you make a lot? Just because you're also a quarterback? Like I'm a podcaster too. Should I make the same amount as Joe Rogan? Probably not. I don't generate the same amount of views and listens that he does. But we're both podcasters because they're both quarterbacks. Well, it's like okay, well one guy's way better than the other guy. It's like Giannis and some random dude on the Bobcats are both NBA players. Who would you rather have? And it's like, well, I can't have Giannis. This is the guy I got. Well, do you want to invest in this guy? Because if you give this guy $30 million a year, that's going to be a you problem. And I just think Purdy was difficult because he definitely saved the 49ers. If Brock Purdy wasn't drafted and didn't come around, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are probably fired because Trey Lance wasn't just a whiff, he was a disaster. And they would have been in major trouble. Purdy saved their job. So that they feel obligated. Now, it's also easy for them to spend. It's not their money, it's the owners. But I think the way you build your team, like, and this is what happens when all these other stupid contracts, in fairness to Brock Purdy, like, I'm not signing less than Tua. Like, I'm not signing for anything less than Trevor Lawrence. And that's his argument. It's like the real estate comp argument. It's like, well, my neighbor's house sold for $1 million. I have a bigger floor plan, a nicer kitchen, and a bigger backyard. So yeah, I'm putting my house on the market for $1.2 million, right? But you couldn't do that if like, well, my neighbor's house sold for 350K. It's like my house is the exact same. I'm putting it on the market for 900K. Guess what's going to happen? No one's going to call. Brock's agent had a pretty easy argument based on the Kyler Murrays, the Tuas, the Trevor Lawrences, like even Jordan Love. Jordan Love got paid after 8 good games. So it's all out of whack. Okay, last question. Longtime listener, love the pod. Major Fugazi. I was thinking about this. I'm going to try to bring back Fugazi Friday. It's kind of got lost in the shuffle during football season, but we might do my top 5 NFL Fugazis this year. Finishing the basement and have one room for entertainment for a theater where I will primarily watch sports. I want to install speakers in these rooms, as well as a couple speakers on the outdoor patio. I'm not a sound nerd. Getting quotes from Best Buy for an install and parts are 25 to 40K. I'm still in shock. This ain't no Taylor Swift recording studio. This is just a private home in the suburbs of the Midwest. Curious, what did you do for your home viewing room when you watch sports? How much did you spend? Do you remember the brand of speakers? Uh, right now, I'm actually building an outdoor office, which is not cheap because it's basically it's called like Studio Shed. So it's going to have power, it's going to have air, it's going to be just basically my home studio in the backyard, which is like 150 square feet. And it's, when it's all said and done, probably cost me like 50 grand. But given that the room I'm in right now, which has multiple TVs where I watch NFL football, where I can watch like 10 games at one time. It's like, well, we're going to have a kid, so he's going to get one of the rooms, and this room can't just be a wasted space for my office when we're going to need help, right? If her mom's coming, people stay here. So I needed to utilize the outdoor, but it's just not cheap. At the same time, I don't have a choice. When I originally moved in this house, we remodeled it, and I got an audio guy. I said I basically want my house to be like it's 2050, not 2000, and I want everything hardwired. I want speakers all over the place, and that was at the time like 25K. It was an expensive endeavor, but all my, that's also my, from security system to all my TVs are on the same operation to my speakers outdoor, like for the backyard and the pool. I got speakers. But again, like I have no skill to do any of that. It wasn't cheap, but I will say this: the guy who's coming tomorrow, because they're building trenches today, they poured the concrete for the office. They're going to build it within the next 10 days. He's coming tomorrow to hardwire that. Like, it is pretty important. So for me, I view a couple things. If you're going to overpay a little bit, let's just use your house in general. It's like you end up spending a lot of time there, right? There are things like, for me, I could have any car I want, right? But I've been driving the same 2011 Tahoe for a long time. I don't drive that many places. For my job, my car's irrelevant. The car's paid off. It doesn't cost me anything. Like, now, if you have a job where you're a sales guy, front facing, and the car's important, I don't blame you. I would spend a lot on a car too. But for me, I spend a lot of time at my house. My whole operation is built currently based on my house and the internet speed and streaming. Like, I have to go prices that are a little uncomfortable. I'm with you. 40K just for a man cave feels kind of crazy. Now, if you have the money, here's the one thing I would recommend. Because I don't know what the difference are between the type of speakers, and I have no clue. I just trusted my guy. If you are going to spend a lot of time in that room, let's say you're going to live at your house for another 10 years. So you do this man cave up, make it sweet. Spend 30 grand, which relative to how much money you have is a shitload of money. If you spend a lot of time in there and it's pretty sweet, you're not really going to complain. And in 10 years, like, what's that money really going to mean to you? Right now, if that's the difference of like sending your kid to college or feeding the family, right? Or buying a car to get to work, like, yeah, you can't do it. But if this is money that you have to spend and you are going to utilize it, like, I think sometimes we overthink things that we end up utilizing a lot and sometimes get cheap on them and then regret it later. And then we do things that we're actually not going to use that often and we overspend on stuff. It's like, what a waste. What a waste. So I think you just have to prioritize how important is this room to you, because I'm with you. The modern technology is pretty expensive. Now the good thing is I can get like a 100-inch TV for $2,000. The televisions relative to inflation for most things are relatively cheap. But everything else, the wiring, the speakers, the setup, the labor, is definitely not cheap. So I would just try to gauge it. One, if you don't have the money, like, don't put this on credit or anything. If you have the ability to pay for it, cash, because that's a huge thing with me. Like, I will do these projects uh, as long as I have the cash. Like, I'm not taking out like a HELOC to fucking redo my pool that I end up using 10 times in a year, right? Just because it looks cool, right? If you have the cash and you want to do it, then do it. If not, then don't do it. But also, if you're gonna use it a lot, you're like, once I had this guy hardwire my house, I've never really complained about it. It's been really good. Would I rather use that money somewhere else? Could I have tripled it if I would have put it in the stock market 3 years ago? 100%. But I've never complained about it since I've had my house. I mean, I have this huge thing in a closet, this box of just, I don't even know what it's like. It's a huge bunch of different like receivers or something. I mean, I couldn't even, if whenever things go down, I just call him and he comes over and he fixes it. It's incredible. So it's money well spent. So I feel your pain. This shit's expensive, but if you're gonna watch a lot of games down there in a couple years, you and your buddies will not be complaining. I'll promise you that.